Donald Trump is already celebrating victory in the Gaza Strip. Hamas militants on October 4 agreed to release all hostages and ceasefire after Trump threatened the terrorists with real hell if they did not accept the peace proposal by the evening of Sunday, October 5. At the same time, the Israeli army halted its offensive operation in the Gaza Strip following a corresponding call from the President of the United States in America. And now Trump is already declaring that this is his personal victory, since Hamas agreed to all his conditions. But if we take off our rose-colored glasses, we will see that Hamas did not fully support Donald Trump's peace plan. However, the United States president preferred to focus on what Hamas agreed to, completely ignoring the points that Hamas publicly rejected. In this episode, we will figure out what Hamas agreed to and why. The militants' tactics already show that they just want to buy time. My name is Alexei Pechi. Before we start this episode, I want to remind you that on this YouTube channel, several news and analytical stories about events around the world are released every day, so you stay updated on all the news. That's why I recommend subscribing to this YouTube channel, and I ask you to like and leave your comment under this episode. So today we received several pieces of news from the Gaza Strip at once. At first glance, it seems that Trump has managed to persuade both Hamas and Israel to a long-awaited peace. Well, for example, the Hamas group announced its readiness to release all Israeli hostages, both living and deceased, as part of the exchange plan proposed by President Moll of the United States. If the release of hostages helps establish a ceasefire and the withdrawal of the Israeli army from Gaza, then they are actually not against it. Hamas also announced its agreement to transfer control of the Gaza Strip to an independent body based on Palestinian national consensus and supported by Arabs and Islam. The official representative of Hamas, Musa Abu Marzouk, added that they are ready to negotiate on all issues related to the movement and disarmament. But later, Trump stated that Israel must immediately stop bombing the Gaza Strip for the safe release of the hostages. In his opinion, the Hamas movement, judging by the statement, is ready for a long-term peace. And now Israel is already stating that it has indeed stopped all offensive actions in the Gaza Strip in order to give these negotiations another chance. Trump, of course, stated that this is his personal victory because just yesterday he himself said, and I quote, "An agreement with Hamas must be reached by Sunday evening at 6 o'clock Washington time." All countries have signed the agreement. If this agreement, which is the last chance, is not concluded, Hamas will face an unprecedented hell. And so, when today the news came to the White House that Hamas, after almost 5 days, responded to President Trump's 20-point proposal to end the war in the Gaza Strip. Officials supported the group's statement so quickly that they published its full text on social media and at one point even mistakenly attributed it to Donald Trump himself. This is where things get most interesting and also most frightening. The fact is, in Hamas's response, there isn't a single full endorsement of any of Donald Trump's 20 points, including such important ones as the demand for Hamas to disarm and destroy its weapons, as well as the ban on participating in the future governance of Gaza. At this point, Trump's plan clearly states Hamas will never govern Gaza again. However, Hamas's response says something different. Al Jazeera published Hamas's statement today, and there is one curious paragraph in it. The Hamas group stated that it agrees to transfer the administration of the Gaza Strip to an independent body based on Palestinian national consensus and supported by Arabs and Islam. In principle, up to this point it sounds more or less as Donald requested, but here's what comes next. The statement says that Hamas is offering Donald Trump to make them part of a unified Palestinian structure that will govern the Gaza Strip after the war with Israel ends. However, Trump preferred not to pay attention to such details and decided to focus on what Hamas agreed to rather than on what they did not agree to. That is, Hamas is openly saying that they want to keep power in the Gaza Strip, even though Trump is against it. That's why, for him, the group's claim to release all remaining hostages from the October 7, 2023 attacks was sufficient. And Trump started acting as if the peace agreement had already been reached. His reaction, published just an hour after Hamas released its 6-paragraph response, actually anticipated any reaction from Israel itself, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom Trump and his team had been urging to accept the peace plan earlier this week. And here is a quote from Trump. Judging by the statement just released by Hamas, I believe they are ready for a lasting peace. Israel must immediately stop the bombings of Gaza so that we can quickly and safely free the hostages. Netanyahu simply needed to say, quote, Israel is ready to start the first phase of Trump's plan for the immediate release of all hostages. We will continue to work in full cooperation with the President and his team to end the war in accordance with the principles outlined by Israel and in line with President Trump's vision. And even though nothing has been done yet to free the hostages, Trump is already celebrating victory. And Trump has already called today a great day, saying this is a great day, this is an unprecedented day. Hamas agreed to something, though they had previously agreed to this extent. What's notable is that Donald Trump's reaction, it seems, was not coordinated with the Israelis. Instead, Trump quickly recorded a video message in which he personally thanked Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Jordan for their efforts to establish peace. But for some reason, he never mentioned Netanyahu. But instead, Trump demanded an end to the bombings in Gaza. And this jubilation of Donald Trump over Hamas's response clearly surprised the Israeli leadership. Trump's demand forced Israel to stop the bombing of Gaza City, even though Israel was preparing to resume negotiations only under fire, and the Israelis insisted on this. After all, even according to Trump's peace plan, Hamas must be eliminated as a military structure, but Trump left Israel with no choice. Moreover, aside from Hamas's response and Trump's jubilation, there are no specifics regarding the release of the hostages. Now, insiders are saying that Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Only after Hamas's response do they go to Egypt to negotiate the details of the hostage release, which was agreed upon with Hamas, and regarding other aspects of the peace plan, which Hamas actually did not support. But they gained precious time, and tomorrow, on Sunday, October 5th, no hell will break loose on them, as Trump usually promised. Because, well, what did they do? Agree to negotiate. You know, this really reminds me a lot of the situation with the Russians. Trump also set deadlines there, threatened with ultimatums, but then he said, listen, well, they started negotiations. Well, how can I impose sanctions? How can I introduce tariffs? How can I not invite Putin to Alaska? They're negotiating after all. So what tough measures do you expect from me? It's exactly the same here. Trump writes, if Hamas doesn't accept my peace plan, they'll face an unprecedented hell. Hamas says, listen, let's negotiate, and Trump says, see, there you go, they're ready for peace, there won't be any hell, hell is cancelled. Meet in Egypt, continue negotiations. And it's telling that even some supporters of Donald Trump don't really believe in the end of the war in Gaza. Moreover, Senator Lindsey Graham,